I used to be so serious about the game. I still appreciate the art of it, okay?
Yeah.
But I think what I really enjoy more is the interaction with fellow chess players, the meeting of minds.
Welcome, everyone, to a special episode of The Scuttlebutt. I say special because I've had a bit of an obsession with chess ever since seeing The Queen's Gambit. I don't know if you've seen it, but it's an incredible TV show which got me so involved in the world and ideas of chess. I've been playing every day. Well, I had heard about the Military Chess Committee, who they run the U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship. This has been going on for, I think, 62 years, which I was amazed by. It took some doing, but I found and was able to connect with the chair of this year's Military Chess Committee, Jim Hollingsworth. Well, I connected with him and he is down in Texas. We are going to have a great conversation and he's actually going to take me through some chess theory at the end of the episode. So if you are listening to this, please pop over to YouTube for the end and you'll be able to get a little bit of chess knowledge and a little bit of a lesson from Jim, who is a very experienced chess player in his own right. So to our listeners, please like, share, subscribe, and ring the bell on YouTube. And also connect with me. We'd love to hear from you. You can comment on YouTube. You can comment on Facebook. You can reach me through email, which is Shaun, SHAUN, at veteransbreakfastclub.org. And we want to give a big thank you, as always, to our sponsor, D&D Auto Salvage. They've been sponsoring us for the last couple months, and we couldn't be more excited to have them on board for the Scuttlebutt. Without further ado, here's my conversation with the chair of the Military Chess Committee, Jim Hollingsworth, who is also an Army vet in his own right. So sit back and enjoy. Jim, welcome to the Scuttlebutt. It's great to meet you.
Thank you, Shaun. Yes, welcome to Texas, and I'm very glad to be here too.
It's great. After watching the recent, viral Netflix show, The Queen's Gambit, I sort of dipped into a passion that I had for chess, and I've been playing every single day. You can find me on chess.com. My username is Valhalla360, and I've been enamored with the game. I've been learning so much about opening theory and middle game and end game theory, and I believe my chess has really gotten better over the last several months since watching the series. And I'm sure maybe a lot of our viewers have seen it and have been interested in chess, but this gives us an opportunity to talk to, are you a master is what they call it?
I'm a chess expert. Now, my rating isn't that way now officially, but Larry Evans, the great grandmaster, once said, once an expert, always an expert. So you get a little older, you're not quite as sharp, but nobody's going to argue with Larry Evans, especially not me. So he said I'm an expert. I had an expert rating back in July 1988. I'm not going to argue with him, and
Yeah.
nobody else should either.
And I guess that leads me to my first segment here on the Scuttlebutt, and we do this, every week, is a phrase of the week. And I figured the term that I'd like to pick out and maybe get a little definition on that our audience may not have the most knowledge of is, what is the differences between international master, national master, grandmaster? You hear these terms thrown out when you start diving into chess, but how do you become one of these?
Well, it kind of depends on which rating system you're under. If you're under US chess, then they'll call people senior masters or national master or original life master. They don't really use the word expert so much. They use the word candidate master. And they're trying to be more in sync with FIDE, which is the World Chess Organization. But that's the one that really actually has the titles of Grandmaster, Woman's Grandmaster, International Master, Woman's International Master, and Candidate Master. So they try to sync up, but FIDE is the one who actually uses the Grandmaster titles. US Chess uses Senior Master usually. In in layman's terms, when people talk about this guy's a grandmaster, I mean, that's what I'm more comfortable with. If a guy's a grandmaster, I'm going to say he's a grandmaster. I'm not going to say he's anything else, because I want to be respectful and we all appreciate the title. And I think people do understand what that means better than a person that's a senior master or original U.S. chess life master. And I'm not criticizing U.S. chess. They're a great organization. They have their title system, but for press releases, things like that, it sounds so much better when you write Grandmaster so and so, because
Right.
everybody understands that it's a common denominator. So you opened up talking about the Queen's Gambit.
Hmm.
I love that movie. I watched that several times, and I want to say, it may seem kind of odd that here's this woman looking at chess pieces on the ceiling and somehow sorting out the game and didn't having a great game. Um, there's actually people like that. I'm
Hmm.
not one of them. It's very rare, but I do know of one person who's now a very strong grandmaster. I knew him when he was a little kid here in Texas, about 5 years old, 6 years old. He was so small. He was so small that when he sat on the for the chair, we had to put phone books there for him to sit there. Okay, but also what I learned about the guy is he is a savant, and he would play a game of chess and he wouldn't look at the board. He wouldn't look at the opponent. He'd look off in the sky. He'd
Mm.
look at the windows or whatever. But the whole time he's looking, then his fingers, his hands are kind of like a typewriter, just going click, click, like that,
Yeah.
right on the table like that, very quietly. And what his chess coach told me is that the young man was actually calculating everything in his mind. And of course, when
Incredible.
it came time to actually make the moves, his analysis was absolutely brilliant. He's very tough. And like today, he is a grandmaster, one of the strongest in the world. Um, but I was really amazed. The kid was only 5 years old back then,
Right.
and now he's in his 20s, I think. Uh,
So,
yes, those people exist,
mhm.
and whether they are looking at moving chess pieces on the ceiling, or somehow it's in their mind and they're using their fingers to figure it out, I don't know, but they're really special, wonderful people.
Yeah, certainly. And it's a great way that the Queen's Gambit was able to sort of show that throughout the series. Um, let's move on to the history of the Military Chess Committee and the U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship. I was wondering how both of those started.
I'm not sure how long the U.S. Chess Committee or U.S. Military Chess Committee has existed. Maybe probably decades, because we've had military chess for many years.
Hmm.
I just happen to be the chairman this year, first time I've been that, but it does exist, and it's a representative from Army, one from Navy, one from Air Force, one from the Marines, and then they have a chair that can stay in the office for up to 3 years. Usually, the chair is the person who's responsible for the upcoming U.S. Armed Forces Open Chess Championship.
If you can see, here's the first slide to the 2021 U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship. Yeah, it's a beautiful
Simple.
logo. Five checkered squares,
Yeah,
knight and a rook. It's nice.
yeah. A player, retired Navy captain named Tom Belkey, shared it with me and a lot of other stuff because he's actually run this event a few times and he's part of the core group. And then he shared this with me because it does help us all market this thing the right way. Myself and a Marine, retired Marine named John Farrell, were co-organizers. Um, he's doing a lot of work. He works in the Pentagon. He's doing work in the Eastern Seaboard, and also he is on the NATO chess team for the U.S.
Hmm.
So he's quite busy, but he also loves this particular championship. And the way this thing came about was um, it's mostly a bunch of retirees and some active duty, but mostly it's retirees that got this thing organized. About 10 years ago, they opened this thing up to veterans that didn't quite retire, but
Hmm.
through no fault of their own, and they can still play in this thing. So we've set that up so they can do that. But this particular tournament is going to be in 121 days in a wake up. That's a good military term, 121 in a wake up. I've been very blessed. There's a lot of people, good people that want to help us. They like veterans, they like chess, and they've come through and made some incredible donations. And it all goes for the good cause. And of course, if we get more money than we need, then what will happen is any excess will still stay with my affiliate, Texas Armed Forces Chess,
Mm-hmm.
because we will exist even after this tournament, and we still help chess playing veterans throughout the year. Once a year, we sponsor the Fort Worth Veterans Championship at the Fort Worth Outpatient VA Clinic, and we have a good time with that. And
Mm-hmm.
that's all for veterans. It pays for the trophies, and it does help veterans. I can tell the story of one veteran that I can't say his name because of confidentiality, but I would set up a desk inside the front entrance of the clinic. And so he was in a, a dark place, that's what
Yeah.
he told me. He says he was in pretty bad shape. And he'd go see these counselors, and things happen to people, maybe PTSD or something, and they could use some help. We all can sometimes. And he would talk to the counselors, and they said, well, how are you doing? I'm not doing so good. Well, okay. What do you like to do for fun? I don't want to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they say, well, what did you do in high school that was fun? Well, I was on the chess team. You were on the chess team. Did you like that? Was that a good thing for you? Oh, yeah, I loved chess back then.
Yeah.
And they said, well, you got that one guy down there inside the main entrance with chess tables set up. Why don't you stop in and see him? So he came in. We started playing. He's pretty strong. He beat me the first game,
Mm-hmm.
and we had some really good matches. Um, Things changed for him. He came to a much better place. Today he's married. He's got a baby on the way. They got a child on the way, and life is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think maybe chess had a little bit to do with that. And of course, when he would go see his counselors, they would say, "Did you play any chess this month?" Yes, I
Yeah.
did. Well, how do you feel about that? So it worked into a great dialogue, and somehow became his therapy to help him get to where he needs to be. And so I'm
Wow.
kind of glad we did that. We've helped other veterans play chess. There was one time we had an Armed Forces Championship in Texas, and there was one veteran that couldn't really afford the hotel room, and
Yeah.
it was out of town. It was down in Hillsboro. So I was able to reach out to good friends, good people, and say, "Look, here's the situation," and suddenly that room was paid for. And
Oh, that's
that's
great.
what you talk about when you raising money.
Mm-hmm.
So again, everything we get, anything I get with this, it doesn't go to me or anybody else. It goes to helping the program. It just happens that this time we have a really huge budget, and
Well, it's
most
gaining in
years,
popularity, right?
yeah, most years the budget might be 3,000 at most.
Mm-hmm.
Out the trophies, the place to rent it. But no, I kind of went overboard. I organized a lodge, and also I'm bringing in a veterans banquet. And people say, well, I've never been to a tournament with a veterans banquet before. Well, yeah, but we're Texas.
Yeah.
We do it different. We do it better.
Do it big and do it better. I
Yeah.
get you. On this next slide that we're going to take a look at, you have the demographics of June 9th, 2021. Are these the number of players already currently entered into the 62nd
Yes, I'm
annual?
so astounded.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, like we did this at West Point a few years ago. I think they had 44. They did it at the Air Force Academy one year, and I think the number was 32 or 33. Last year at Camp Lejeune, I think it was close to 50. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have that in front of me, but you can see that's kind of the numbers we normally have. I take it back. Last year the Navy did it, and they had the pandemic to worry about, so they only had 21 players because they couldn't have a meeting, like you normally would. But so yeah, Camp Lejeune. So it rotates around every year. Different services got it.
Yeah. And it looks
Army
like
has it
from
this
this,
year.
yeah, Army has the most participants this year right now at 29, followed by Air Force, and then followed by the Navy, which kind of like goes by national average of size of branch, right?
It does, and you notice. I mean, I like to say Air Force. It's like Army, only smarter. At least that's what some people tell me. Yeah,
And you
and
have
then
one Space Force. You have one space, like the Space
well,
Force just
I was
started.
astounded. I was hoping for one. I actually
Yeah,
had one budgeted. I said, I'm going to get a plaque for the Space Force if they
yeah.
show up. And lo and behold, I finally got an email that said, this guy is registered. So yeah, we have one guy that is Space Force, and he's coming. I know he's going to do great things.
Hmm.
And you'll notice that there's some people don't do just one service. They may be in the Air Force or Marines or something, and then they later do the Army. And you
Yep.
see there, they come from all over. It's like I've got one person's 5,000 miles. I got one person coming from Hawaii. That's a long distance. So they're coming all around. And you see there's two categories there. One is the Armed Forces Open. That's the traditional Armed Forces Open, mostly retirees, active
AFO.
duty, academy cadets. But we also have a lot of veterans. You can see them signing up, and not all of them for Texas. We have a lot from Texas. If I could have kept things going at the VA clinic in Fort Worth and other places, that number will be a lot higher. But you can see there's a lot of veterans that play chess
Hmm.
in Texas. And there you can see from all over, you see Texas is well represented.
Yeah, 30 players
But
from Texas, followed by California and let's see here, Louisiana and Maryland. Oh, and
Maryland, yeah,
Oklahoma,
Oklahoma. Oh, yeah, Oklahoma's going to be
Virginia.
here in force.
We got
That
to get a representative from PA, from where we're recording the Scuttlebutt, a representative from here. We
there's
have a
some
large veteran
there's a lot
contingency
of
here.
veterans in Pennsylvania,
Yeah.
and there's some strong players in Pennsylvania, and I'm
Hmm.
looking forward to seeing some of them. Now, this person, I'll ask the question. You probably won't have any idea who this is, but I can give you a clue. He's an Okie. He's from Oklahoma.
Hmm.
This was 1975. This person, see how young he is. He was Air Force, and he won the Armed Forces Chess Championship. So we
Hmm.
got some history going back to 1975 there. Okay, now
Right.
you want a better picture? Go to the next one. Who is that?
I'm gonna guess you.
No, no, that is Chuck Unruh, the president of Oklahoma Chess Association. He's also on the executive board for U.S. Chess,
Oh, wow.
and he's a great supporter, huge supporter of scholastic chess,
Hmm.
women's chess, military chess, all kinds of chess. And he's the right man at the right time, the right place to be on that board doing great things up
Hmm.
there. So I didn't want to embarrass him with this slide. I wanted to point it out because there he is. His name is Chuck Unruh, and he is see how go back to the other one. Go back to
Yeah.
the other slide. Yeah, you see how he hasn't changed a bit, in my opinion. Okay,
Yeah.
probably
Yeah.
better looking. But
Well,
yeah,
this speaks to a lot of what we talked about on the Scuttlebutt of having veteran leadership within the communities, and for him to be on that committee and be
yeah,
supporting the U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship and military chess committee is great stuff.
yeah. So let's see. I think I have one more slide, do I?
Yeah, the
Oh
snake
yeah,
eaters.
I threw this up for fun. See, there was a thing called the U.S. Amateur Team South, and it was online. And Frank Guadalupe, the president of Texas Chess Association, um, he likes to organize tournaments and run them. And it was
Hmm.
online because of the pandemic. So we became the first team to sign up. And we did things democratically. We all voted on what we're going to call the team. So it finally came down to two names. One was called Shock and Pawns. I thought that was pretty cool.
I love
And
that.
the other was Snake Eaters. And two of the guys, one guy is a Navy SEAL, retired. The other guy has the Ranger tab from the Army. And of course, at Camp Donegal, wherever they do their stuff at, they definitely eat snakes to survive. So
Yeah.
it was Snake Eaters. And we did okay. We did respectful. We had a great time. And so the friends there, you see Mike Donovan,
Hmm.
retired colonel. There's myself, retired major. There's Leon Powers, retired. Uh, I guess they call him Master Chief. In the Army, we call him
Hmm.
Command Sergeant Major, but he was an E9 Master Chief. He's retired. And Daryl West, I believe he was an NCO and E6. He didn't retire. He'd be in the VOC area. But he and I, me and Mike and Daryl, all played in the 2007 Army Championship. It was such a thrill. And this is like a great reunion for all of us. So
Yeah.
all of us are in Texas, easy to communicate with and say, hey, got this tournament, want to do it? And here we are, you know. So we had fun doing that. And um, I was surprised how strong some of the kids, the younger people were in that tournament. So we did get the Veterans Prize. I think it was the best veterans team. So that was us.
So all of the service branches take part in the U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship. Where we're talking, like, so you saw Space Force. Is Coast Guard part of it too?
Coast Guard, yes. So far, they're kind of new at this. Usually, if they do show up, we put them with the Navy or Sea Services team. But
Hmm.
I think the time has come for Coast Guard to step up the plate. We just have to recruit somebody that actually is of a mindset to kind of organize and tournaments like that. And yes,
Hmm.
I think Coast Guard deserves to have a good showing of that. Now, Space Force, um, like I said, I got special prize just for Space Force, but they're kind of in the Air Force category, you know, right
Right.
now. But I think as time goes on, the interest there, and of course, you're talking Space Force. That's a lot of smart people.
Yeah.
Sure, they're going to play chess, you know.
Right. So, fun question here. Who would you consider to be probably the most successful or famous U.S. Armed Forces champion?
um, there's a guy named Emery Tate. He's deceased now, but I met him in 1989. He was an incredible person. He didn't make senior master or grandmaster, but he's just a step below that. And he
Hmm.
was incredible because he could he would come up with these wild openings, very unorthodox. He'd say, "Well, if rooks are good,
Hmm.
then I'll make them even better." So he'd open up both rook pawns, place both his rooks up, and put them in the middle, and then he beat grandmasters with it. It was just incredible, you know.
Yeah.
And I I remember you sitting there analyzing a chess game. He's I don't know if the word is obnoxious, but he was assertive.
Yeah.
We had to laugh at him, you know, and I mean, laugh because of him, not at him, but
Yeah.
we respected him a lot. And I remember, you know, you're sitting there analyzing the game, right? And then suddenly this voice comes up behind you, grabs the knight and says, "Knight to F5," and slams it down. And you say, "What? What is this?" And you turn around and look, oh, it's Emery. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, gee, that looks pretty good. You know, that's how chess players are.
Yeah.
And so he was always entertaining. He came up with wild openings. I saw him beat a master who was beating everybody once at
Hmm.
the Armed Forces Championship in 1989, and the guy was unstoppable. Had a special opening,
Yeah.
and here Emery found the antidote, and I started using that myself, adopting it, and I've had some success with it, and some fun games even when I lose. The guy was incredible. So he was Armed Forces champion. I think at least 3 times, 4 times. I don't remember exactly how many, but quite a few times, maybe 5.
Yeah.
Um, didn't retire, left early, but you know, love him to death. You know,
Hmm.
wish he was still around. We all do. A lot of us do. He was one heck of a chess player. You know,
Is the Armed
and
Forces Chess Committee like the full membership, everybody that sort of is involved? Is it sort of like its own sort of subset of the military? Really close guys, they all know each other. You know, you guys all get together, play
you know
chess,
what it
like
is?
hang
It's
out.
the people who actually make things happen.
Yeah.
So have an Army person, an Air Force person, Marine person, and did I miss one? Army, Air Force,
Navy.
Navy.
You guys have like your
Right?
own joint chiefs of staff that sort of run
Just
this.
about. Well, these guys are the ones who actually are the core nucleus of making sure this thing happens every year.
Yeah.
So yeah, Army may have the lead this year, but I answer to them.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I have to make a lot of decisions, but a lot of stuff goes right back to them. Say, guys, here's the situation. You know, let's clarify on who's eligible for what position, what prize, or which section they're in, things like that. Go to them quite a bit. And of course, the one guy I go to the most is John Farrell, he's the Marine who's played in this thing so many times. He's been on the committee a lot, and he's also one of our NATO reps. And then, of course, another guy I consult quite a bit is our FIDE arbiter, who happens to be Frank Guadalupe, the president of U.S. Chess, or excuse me, president of TCA, Texas Chess Association. But he's also, I guess the right title is, well, let's say he's the number one guy when it comes to FIDE in the Western Hemisphere, the North American Hemisphere. Okay. Yeah. So he is the authority. So I go to him and say, hey, Frank, what about this? What about that? So he's been very helpful in making sure we put this thing together the right way.
Right.
And it became a tradition about 3 or 4 years ago, 5 years ago, that this event will be FIDE rated. And a lot of it is to help the people who are cadets, because when they get out of the academies, then they're going to go to Europe. They're going to be trying to play in the NATO competition, and they want you to have a FIDE rating.
Right.
So this gives them a boost to try to do that. And actually, FIDE is becoming bigger and bigger in the U.S. And
when you say FIDE, you mean like FIDE. That's
FIDE.
That's how you pronounce it, FIDE.
It's a little more expensive than a normal regular chess tournament because the FIDE arbiters go through so much training. They have to be very good experts in everything.
Yeah.
They have to know like how you set every clock.
Yeah.
How does every clock work? All the nuances, whereas a normal tournament director isn't required to know exactly how that clock works. A player is responsible because it's their clock, but there's a whole lot of them. Well, the FIDE arbiters know how every single clock works, how you make it, how you start, how you put the batteries in, how do you do the settings, how you add time as a penalty or take away time or whatever.
Right.
And I really admire those guys. I've seen that in action a few times, and those guys are pretty awesome. And they're worth every penny. They're a little more pricey, and of course, I had to hire FIDE arbiters to run this thing. And I hired a few other people that are U.S. chess TDs that are very competent. They can help in a lot of different areas. But I had to make sure I absolutely had FIDE arbiters with the right qualifications to run this thing, because it is a national tournament. We also give out little certificates and awards. I have people that donate, and organizations donate things, little gifts, and basically what happens, the idea is that if you can, when they sit down to play chess, a lot of times they're going to find a little gift for them right there at the board. And that's kind of a tradition for Armed Forces Chess, just a little show of appreciation. So Blakeman Chess is helping us out there. American Chess Equipment is helping us out there. They're kind of our sponsors too. And a lot of the people, it's like they're coming out from so many places. I'm so grateful. And I really can't, I'd leave somebody off to try to list them all, but I do try to put them on a website. The website is TexasArmedForcesChess.com.
Okay.
TexasArmedForcesChess.com. And of course, one of the tabs there is register. And of course, there is a donate tab also. So we'll take donations.
Okay. So you're in Texas, big state for football. My thinking is that the competition on the floor at the U.S. Armed Forces Chess Championship similar to the Army Navy game, where people are pretty passionate about, who's going to win that football game? How is the competition on the floor at the championship?
I think they're a little more subdued. I think the closest thing you would come to that is something we call the real Red River Shootout. That's an annual match between Oklahoma's most fanatical chess players and Texas fanatical chess players. And I've been very involved in that and helping organize that and directing a few years. This year I pulled back because I'm too busy organizing this thing. I just don't have time. But it's in good hands because one of the guys who helped start it was Tom Crane, the old president of the Watauga Chess Club.
Yeah.
Now he's president of the Tarrant County Chess Club. He's the past president of Texas Chess Association. And this year, because of the pandemic, we couldn't have a good match like we needed to. But he made sure we did do it. Ended up being, I think, 5 boards done down here in Fort Worth. Usually we meet midway in Oklahoma. We meet at Davis, Oklahoma, at a hotel next to a casino and play there and have a great time.
Yeah.
But the last couple of years just hasn't been able to happen. Last year, after we had to cancel it, I went ahead and organized a online Red River Shootout. And the reason for that is, U.S. Chess has a rule that if you have that tournament 25 straight years, you can become a heritage event. 2027, that is the 25th year. So we're all trying to live long enough to see it,
Right.
have fun with it. We've had a few people that are impassant, which means they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
But
that's also a chess term, and
that's the chess term for impassant. Yeah. So we've had a few of those that we really loved dearly, and they're not here anymore. But we keep it alive. The spirit is for them, and we know when we play, they're watching over our heads, over our shoulders, and making sure we're playing the right things. There's some pretty good rivalries here. Usually, it's when we have the inter-service championship on active duty, but that went away a few years ago because of budgetary reasons. So right now, this is the only opportunity for the military chess players to come together and have fun. And for so many of us, it's like a 40-year reunion, 30-year reunion. I've known some of these guys way back in, and you make new friendships.
Jim, I want to dive a bit into your love of the game, and then for our YouTube viewers, we're gonna actually go into an opening that we're gonna learn here in just in a few. But first, I want to, Jim, what got you into chess? When did you start playing?
I watched TV when I was real little, and I'd see James Bond or somebody doing something like that, and I'd say, that looks pretty cool. And I was a pretty good checkers player. One year, we were moving to Alaska because my dad was in the Air Force, and we stopped in Council Bluffs, Iowa. My cousin was a couple of years older than me, but he taught me how to play, and he was kind of learning himself. And I remember he that first, it was Thanksgiving break. He had plenty of time to play chess, and so I think I won one game and lost 18, if I remember right. And every time you lose, you kind of go, whoa, let's play again. So that's how it was for me. And so I played in my first tournament, my first rated tournament, in around 1990 in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, when I was in high school. Teachers saw me playing chess in the lunchroom or in the study hall, and then they called me to the main desk, the principal's office, and said, "You're the only chess player we know, and here's this tournament coming up in Harrisburg. Would you like to go to that?" So yeah, I talked to my parents, and we got it lined up, and I got to go. First tournament I played, I won 3 games and lost 3. And it was a Mid-Atlantic High School Championship, so that was pretty good. And then didn't get to play that often. I was in the Army, and I helped one guy direct a tournament. I said, "Let me help you and learn what you do." He was a good teacher. His name was Casey O'Connor from Wisconsin. He was a medic, and he taught me. And I thought, okay, after I learned that, I said, okay, that's great, because Casey's going to be here. We're going to have more tournaments. I'll keep helping. I'll keep learning. Okay. Well, instead, Casey told me a week later, says, "Hey, listen, the Army's going to let me get out of the Army early, so I'm going to go home." And at that point, it meant, wait a minute, if I'm going to play tournaments, play chess, I'm going to have to become a tournament director too. So that's what I did. I would direct tournaments, and I would play in them. The first time I got selected for the Army Championship was 1981. The letter was dated August 5th, 1981. And I got the letter, and I opened it up, and it said, "Dear Sergeant Hollingsworth, welcome to the Army Championship, the 1981 Army Championship." And I thought, wow, this is so wonderful. But I had to fold that sucker up, put it back in my wall locker in the personal area, because I had just started OCS, Officer Candidate School.
Oh, yeah.
So I wasn't going to go play chess that year, but I did get to go later. I got to go, I think it was 83. I actually got to go and play my first one. I've been blessed. I played in 5 Army championships. I played in 1 Armed Forces championship. I
Hmm.
made the team once. And I have good friends like, Daryl West and Mike Donovan. They've back with me so many years,
Yeah.
and many others, and a lot of people supporting.
What do you love about the game?
I used to be so serious about the game. I still appreciate the art of it, okay?
Yeah.
But I think what I really enjoy more is the interaction with fellow chess players, the meeting of minds.
Hmm.
Like for Snake Eaters, when we played online, uh, a few months ago. Then when we when our game ended and other guys' game would end, we would get on the phone, start talking to each other,
Hmm.
and watch the game of somebody else's playing. Couldn't interfere, but we could talk about them. And so yeah, Mike, go get that pawn. Yeah. So we're cheering. That was like the greatest fun, having 4 of us at different stages going over all the games together
Yeah.
and really cheering for each other.
Hmm.
And it's like that way in Red River Shootout too. I mean, we
Yeah.
really enjoy that camaraderie. So,
Jim, what would you say is the maybe the number one thing or the most important thing you've learned from the game of chess?
well, I guess the big thing is choices have consequences.
Mm,
You don't always know, just like in life, is it the right move? You hope it is. You analyze it,
yeah.
you throw it out there and see, well, did it work or not? Or was that a gamble? You know,
Yeah.
so choices have consequences. Everything in chess, there's thousands of choices, hundreds of choices you've got to make in a game,
Right.
and which one is the right one?
Interesting. Um, and as an amateur myself, I'm carrying a rating of like 1,000. Something I'm actually kind of proud of in a daily game.
Yeah.
1,000 is pretty good, I'd say, for a couple months of harder study into the game. But as an amateur, the one thing that I keep coming back to as I play is how do I swallow my pride after a tough loss and just get back on the horse and keep playing?
Well, I think if you're able to talk to the opponent, say, "Can we go over the game?" You'll learn so much.
Hmm.
You Jim Barry, the president of Oklahoma Chess Foundation, I played a game with him once, and I got lucky and beat him. But he said, "No, no, no, let's go over the game." And just from his analysis there, boy, I learned so much. And it's like when you have people like that actually take the time and work with you, you know, that's what you want. And
Yeah.
like you see that more with the older players. That's how they were raised. Let's go over the game and see what else we can do. And I've seen a couple of young guys. There's Advat Patel,
Hmm.
and I can't think of the other guy's name. I saw them once at a tournament in Dallas where they're both from Oklahoma and they're both very strong.
Hmm.
Howard Zong was his name. Howard Zong and Advat Patel. And they were going over the game, but they said so little. They were
Yeah.
they were doing this, and it kind of like, what do you think about this? It's like the minds were in sync, and it was amazing how quickly they moved, how much they were absorbing and analyzing, and things like that. So I'm a bit slower than that, but I do enjoy having a good discussion with people about what I could have done better, and
Hmm.
also helping other people. And I think that's what it is for so many chess players.
I have a quote before we get to our opening game here. It comes from Carnegie Mellon University, which is right here in Pittsburgh. They wrote a paper on sort of game theory, but I pulled a quote from this that I thought was really interesting that I'd love to hear what your take is on. The quote is, what is emerging from research on games like chess is a computational theory of games, a theory of what is reasonable to do when it is impossible to determine what is best, a theory of bounded rationality. I found that to be very intriguing, this idea of what to do, what is best to do when there is no good option.
Well, I think a lot of it is it's kind of like sometimes it's intuition. Sometimes you'll be playing somebody and you're rolling them, you're rolling over them,
Hmm.
and you don't really understand why. I know I in Georgia many years ago, about 1981, we had a guy named Dennis Druash, an expert, and he was very tough. and we had Boris Kogan, a grandmaster, who was there playing with us in a small tournament. And Dennis, I mean, he was light years ahead of me and a lot of us, but one thing he commented about was, I knew I was losing. I just couldn't figure out why. It
Hmm.
just somehow, maybe sometimes it comes down to you figured everything else out. You're just gonna have to trust your gut and go with it. And it reminds me of the Star Trek TV show when Spock would get so frustrated because Captain Kirk would clean his clock with illegal move or illogical moves.
Hmm.
It's just not logical.
Right.
Well, you know, yeah, but I won the game.
That's a great analogy. Um, well, awesome. Let's jump into. I'm going to share my screen here. A share screen of an actual opening. We're going to work through a problem that Jim's going to sort of say, "Hey, this is something you might come across when you first start playing chess."
Well, this one, yeah, I wanted to talk about because this is an opening that everybody will face sometime.
Hmm.
Okay, and especially when they're playing someone who's somewhat inexperienced and lower ranking, but you can't take them for granted. You still got to know what to do because you don't
Right.
ever play the rating, you play the person and
Hmm.
actually play the opening. And so sometimes opportunities abound. And really, the person who wins chess is the person who makes the next to last mistake.
I love that quote. I just heard that quote just the other day. Yeah, the person who wins at chess is the person who makes the next to last mistake.
That's right.
I
Okay,
love
so
that.
this is a game where somebody's gonna make a mistake. We'll see. Okay, but let's start out with you're moving the pieces. So the first move would be e4.
E4.
Pawn goes over there, and that's a solid opening. That allows you to get the bishops developed, the queen developed, the knights developed, and lets you get castle pretty quick.
Takes the center.
Fight for control of the center.
Hmm.
It's excellent move for white. Okay, and black can do so many things. Black can play the c pawn to c5. Don't do it, but just tell you they can play
Hmm.
there and make it a Sicilian. Unless that lets you take moves back, does it? I don't know.
It does. So yeah, C5 would be
Okay, so we got that. Now take it back, but that's a Sicilian defense. It might do that. They might play the Alekhines, which brings the knight up to f6,
here.
like that. They might play other strange openings. In this case, we're going to play. Oh, I know. Here's another good one. They might play d5,
Here.
and that becomes
Scandinavian.
an interesting opening, Scandinavian, because what happens there is like chess coaches have a heart attack when their students play this because it's everything is wrong with this opening.
Hmm.
It's like, but it's actually a very solid opening. So what happens there? Usually, the pawn will take the pawn,
Hmm.
okay, and the queen will take it. So we moved our queen out much earlier than we normally would.
Right.
Usually, you move other pieces out, makes the queen kind of vulnerable. So here comes knight to c3.
Hmm.
Okay, now we got to protect the queen. We can lose some tempo and move the queen all the way back, or we can move the queen over. So they move the queen over to a5. And at this point, see, I used to get really waxed with this opening because in North Carolina, when I was playing there a few years ago, everybody's playing this is black, and I kept losing. And I talked to Ron Simpson, he was a master. I said, I don't understand. He says, hey, what you got to do, Jim, is just make normal moves. Okay, just don't worry about it. Just play normal developing moves, and you'll be fine. And he was right. And I've had some good games after that as white, but I had a learning curve I had to go through. And I was a strong player, but it was a rage in North Carolina. Everybody's playing that.
Hmm.
And I actually wrote an article about that and published it in Texas Knights a few years ago. If anybody wants to go and look at the Texas Knights articles, I think it might be September of 2016 or something. I
Yeah, and
wrote the
that's
pastor's
something
opening.
that's
Uh,
something that I've really found interesting as I've dove into the game of chess is understanding that one, the game has been around for centuries, and a lot of these openings have been studied ad nauseum, and full books have been written about just the Scandinavian or just the Sicilian, and that's where it's like this next level. Like, amateur chess players might just start playing and figuring out, oh, I can move knights, first, I can start taking center. But when you start really diving into the openings and all the branches that each opening takes, that's where I think you really start to like understand the higher level chess.
Yeah, and like I say, one of the ways I got to be pretty decent is at Lawton, Oklahoma. I was the secretary of the Lawton Chess Club. Okay, so we had a requirement that when you play in a tournament, you must turn in the score sheets to the secretary. And I kept a binder on them and all that. People could check them out and they could look at them anytime they want. Not that many people did that, but I had the games, I'd look at them. And what happens is if I had two strong players playing an opening and one of them won, then I picked up something from my repertoire.
Something for your
And
toolbox.
if the other guy won, then I picked up an antidote. So I became a pretty good chess player by understanding that. And I was doing research without a computer back then.
Oh, yeah.
But it came down to what are they playing? Why are they doing that? Okay. So
Right.
in this case, what Ron's philosophy was develop normally. And, again, this is the Patcher's opening, So I played 1, 2, 3, yeah, queen over, okay. Just knight to f3, maybe. Knight to f3.
Yep.
And then probably the best move for black is now give yourself an escape route for your queen. Go c6, Charlie 6. Okay. So probably the next best move might be d4. And then when the time is right, you can move the queen back to go and move the queen back to e8. Now you look at what's happened here is white's got two pieces developed. There's no real advantage in the center because it opened up for both people that way. But black has a very solid position that it's almost like a really tough nut to crack. And so this is actually a good opening to learn as black because it is so solid and it is very hard to break through. You think you have all the advantages, and like say, your chess coach will have a heart attack if you're playing this opening because it violates all the rules, but it's actually very, very, very solid and a lot of fun.
Interesting.
Okay? So that's what I want to show you in that one. So can we go back to start position?
Yep.
So that was called the Scandinavian or the Patcher's opening, okay? The other strong opening to kind of look at, there's so many variations of it, that would be the Petrov. Let me show you that. Pawn to e4 and pawn to e5. Now the knight comes up to c, that's it. Okay, now.
c3 or f3?
Okay, perfect, knight up, no.
Oh, knight f3.
You hit the correct knight, knight to f3, I'm sorry. So this one, naturally, we could play a Rue Lopez or some other opening, and in this case, black plays knight to f6. Okay, now you look at how this thing looks. Neither guy's protecting their pawn. They can take it, but what happens here, this particular opening is very drawish. So what you see when you have this opening happening, if you're a lower rated player, and let's say you're about 1,000, you play somebody rated 1,400 or 1,500, and you want to have some fun with this, look at this opening and look at the Petrov pretty seriously, because what will happen is when you play this as black, if you can hear real well and read a guy's mind, you'll hear a lot of cussing on the other side of the board.
Yeah.
Because they know you're playing for a draw because it's so tough an opening. I mean, you can still lose, but when a guy plays this, he's playing for a draw. And most people playing for a win don't play the Petrov because it's kind of so symmetrical. And so one particular line that may open up is pawn to d4. Okay, and then knight takes the pawn. Okay, and then there might be pawn takes the pawn. And this is what's cool when I've seen this opening. I mean, I've seen this so many times. I think this is the coolest move. You go pawn to d5. And then what happens is pawn takes pawn impassant and knight back. Knight taken. And see how cool it is. You develop this thing, and now it's still even. And also, what happens with the Petrov, see, is black loves it because, see, black develops his pieces easily.
Mm-hmm.
They clear out those center pawns, right?
Yep.
You can castle quick. You get 2 rooks out there on the E file and the D file. You just have a wonderful game, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why players with the white pieces hate it so much, because white, black does get an interesting game where he can stay at least equal most of the game, unless he makes a mistake, like we all do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but it's a very interesting and fun opening, and so there's other variations here, but that's kind of the idea. Like when I played some games of this and saw other people play, I saw that maneuver where they're going E pawn or E in passing, hit the knight takes. I thought that was so cool,
Yeah,
So
definitely
all
something
right.
I have not seen yet. So that's really interesting.
Yeah, let's go back to the starting position again. Start. Okay, now this is the opening. I guarantee you will see this someday. If you haven't done it already, you may have already played it. So anyhow, you're going to be white. You can play white E4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they play E5. So it's kind of standard. Looks like it's going to be kind of an open game.
Mm-hmm.
Here comes knight to S3. Now, again, they could play the Petrov, they could play the Lopez, they could play the Sicilian, Ponziano, they play so many different things. But in this particular case, this happens because the person is kind of inexperienced, maybe starting to learn chess a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens. Okay, the person who wins is the one who makes the next to last mistake. The person plays F6.
F6
and when
here.
No, F6, yeah. And so when you see this, what should go through your mind is say, that guy with the beard and the cowboy hat told me about this once. What did he tell me about this? You just sort of work your way through it. Now, you are now playing white.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is the right move to play here? There's so many things to play. What do? He's reinforced that pawn, So
If I may venture a guess, and what I would probably do is I would do FC4, continue my development.
Okay, and that's a good move. That's a good idea. That's what a lot of people will do. They'll try to do, hey, let's keep the development going. Let's keep a good, open, wide open game. All right, now take the bishop back.
Yep.
I'll show you what you should play.
Yeah.
Knight takes pawn.
Knight E5.
That's right. Okay, so he took this pawn. Okay, you sacked the knight. All right, so he's going to take your knight.
Yep.
Now the whole game changes. You've got so many attacking possibilities of white. Let me, before I say the next thing, why don't you look at this and tell me what you're going to play as white now?
I would think, well, this is too much of a gamble, DH5 or queen to H5, because that can be easily defended. If I want to take center, I might gamble and go D4, but I know that the F file is open here. So would I still try to go bishop C4, castle, and then I own the F file?
I'm not laughing at you because, again, that's what a lot of people do. It seems so natural,
right?
But bring the bishop back.
Yep.
Let's look at another move. Now, let's go with your instincts. The first one, queen to H5. Check.
Oh, okay.
Now look what happened, okay? How's he going to stop the check?
He's going to go here.
That's the only thing. He can try to block it, but that's all he can do. And now what does the queen do? There you go, check.
And the only thing I can
see that?
Yep.
We've got to block. All you can do is either move the king or block it. So block it one way. All right.
Well, I think he would probably go bishop just to get, he doesn't want to.
Okay. Now, what's your move now?
I would think that take the rook.
Take the rook, right? So now you're up the rook.
He can't move the knight because it's pinned.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you'll have to move the king over
Mm-hmm.
to, no, move the king. Wait a minute. Yeah, that might work. That might work. That's better than move. Yeah, I'd say move there. Okay. Hey,
F8,
move the king to F5, F7. The king
F7.
moves to F7. Okay.
Yep.
What do you think white's move could be there? That is a possibility. Put it back. Okay.
Okay.
I mean that there's nothing wrong with that. But I like bishop to C4.
Ooh.
Now
Yeah.
see, you're starting to have fun. You know, this is like Mike Tyson, and he's got the opponent against the ropes,
Yeah.
and he's just going kaboom, kaboom, and look at here. Oh wow. You know, see, the thing is, he's in trouble. He can try to move the king back to F8, maybe. Let's try that. See what happens.
From
King to
here.
F8.
Yep.
Now what does white do? Checkmate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Wow.
anyway, you know, you know, you won't see that maybe in most serious play, but just casual play, and also like when you're playing chess with the grandkids or kids, you know, neighborhood kids,
Mm-hmm.
um, you'll look like a genius. Okay, so put that back to the start position again. Okay,
Right.
because there's so many different variations of this. So again, let's go E4,
Mm-hmm.
E5, knight F3, F6.
Mm-hmm.
Let's sack, and then we do that, and then you bring which piece out?
Queen.
Queen, check. Okay, so that move didn't work so well, did it? Um, Pulling the pawn up doesn't work so well. We can see that, right? You lose the rook and lose a lot of crap, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing you can do is move the king up a square. So the king moves to there. So now what does white do?
I don't think he'd still slide over.
That's right, right over there. Okay, check. Okay, so now we're really kind of hurting. Okay, there's
Mm-hmm.
not much else we can do except you're going to have to move the king. You can't block anything. You're going to have to move the king.
Mm-hmm.
So now, what would be the best move for white?
Bishop
That's
C4.
right. That's the move you wanted to do all along, right?
Right.
So in this case, what are we going to do? Good Lord. Okay, well, let's see if we can protect something, block something. Play that pawn up to D5. Let's see what happens. All right. Now what do you do?
My first thought would be take with pawn, but I want to take with bishop.
That's right. Here's the Mike Tyson haymakers. See?
Yeah.
The head. You see the head bobbing back and forth, right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we got that. Okay, what are we gonna do now? Well, maybe we can block it. Let's bring the bishop up and block it. And now what?
No, I would go queen E6.
Checkmate.
Yep.
Kind of fun.
Yeah.
Right,
Black is really thrown right against the ropes right on that.
yeah. Now let's go back just a couple of moves, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
See if we can. And okay, take the pawn, like we're doing. So he moves over, moves the king over, right? No place to go
Yep.
except F7.
Yep.
Right? We now know that D5 is bad.
Yep.
So your grandson, your child, your neighbor's kid, whatever, or your one of your friends, hopefully you can still talk to each other after these games, you know.
Right.
He knows he can't do that, so he's going to say, "I'll just move the king over."
Mm-hmm.
So what do? You bring the bishop up again, right? Bishop C4.
Yep.
Now he knows he can't block it. He says, "Okay, I'll get away another way." Okay. So he moves the king over there, only place he can go, right? Mm-hmm. And then the best place is, you got it, check. Now you've really got him against the ropes. See, you're just landing the right hook, the left hook, the right cross, whatever. He's really getting pummeled. There's only one place he can go. Where is it? That's right. It's going to move there. Now it's black. It's black's move, right? So
Black just moved king h6. So now
yeah,
it's white.
it's white's move. Now what? Let's think about this one now. What do you want to do now?
I feel like it's queen and coming back to h3.
Okay, and anybody can understand why you might want to do that. Of course, you
Yeah,
can't block it with the queen because you'll take the queen and he's still in bad shape. You can move
right.
back over and you, but let's try a different move, okay?
Sure.
Just think about when Mike Tyson's got you against the ropes, right? Here comes the left haymaker, here comes the right haymaker, and here comes the left again and the right again. That's what you're doing. So put that pawn back, please, okay?
Okay.
Let's look at pawn to d5 or d4.
Pawn d4.
Now what do you see?
Well, I see if we're moving d4, then we're protecting, let's see, c5 and e5. Or we're attacking those is c5 and e5.
Is the king in check?
The king is not in check.
He's not. You're sure?
The black king?
The black king is a black king in check.
No, I don't see. I don't. Oh, you're right. That was a found check.
See?
Yeah. Okay.
Now
Yeah.
we're
Bishop
getting,
c.
see,
Yeah.
that's the whole point. You talk about what did you learn about chess, Jim? I say, who gets there the mostest, the firstest, the mostest.
Yep.
That's the guy who usually wins. And here you're doing. You got three people coming to kill this guy, right?
Right.
Now what's he going to do? Okay, let's say queen to g4. Let's stop that.
Queen to g.
Now, yeah, right there.
Yeah.
That stops the check. Now what? I got it. Yeah, I can understand. That's a good move.
Mm-hmm.
There's a better move. Move the bishop back. Why not take it with the queen?
Yeah. That's checkmate. Right.
Okay. Now let's put the queen back. Queen back again.
Mm-hmm.
Go back with the queen back at d8. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Now, so of course your opponent isn't really all there yet, but he's getting better. So he knows he better not make that queen move because of the curtains, right?
Right.
So he plays that pawn up. Only thing he can do, move the pawn up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now what does white do?
No. Attack the pawn.
That's right. Move up there. See, the mate doesn't work yet because
Of
the
queen.
he's got the queen and the king backing up that pawn. But here comes another pawn in the game, right?
Right.
Now it's like, oh my God, what else we do? Okay, so now it doesn't really matter what
Black does here.
the person's going to do. He can't take that pawn as pinned.
Yep.
So let's say he brings bishop to e7 maybe. Okay, try to reinforce some things. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, double enforced.
Now what does white do? That's right.
Yeah, take.
That's right. Now you have a double check. A double check, okay?
Yeah.
And there's no way to block a double check. There's no way to capture one piece, so you have to move the king.
Mm-hmm.
Only one square to go. And now what does white do? Excellent. Checkmate.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was a fun little opening I wanted to show you,
That's excellent.
show your audience. And I guarantee you play chess long enough, you will see this
Mm-hmm.
again. You know, so now when they have, they say, gee, that guy with the cowboy hat and the beard, what did he tell me about that? And there it is. Okay. So you're a very good student, sir.
Well,
Okay.
thank you. Thank you for the
You learn
lesson.
well, and you play better than most. And actually, a 1,000 rating, uh, actually, that's actually pretty respectful nowadays. Okay. The average rating is about 800 now.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're better than average.
Well, I appreciate that.
And you just keep moving up. Okay.
Will
So,
do. You keep playing. That's what I've just kept in my mind. Play the game. Like even if
yeah.
you lose and you get mad, go back, learn from what you lost, what mistake you made, what blunder you made, and keep playing because you're gonna keep on putting tools in the toolbox for the next game.
Even when you lose, you go, whoa, let's
Right.
play again, you know?
Yeah, I love that found check. That's great stuff. Well, this has been really an awesome episode of the Scuttlebutt, Jim, and it's all thanks to you. I really appreciate it. Is there anything else that you'd love for our audience to know?
Well, one more thing here. 121 days in the wake up and go Army.
Go Army. And I know that I'll be looking forward to October and finding out what happens in the most recent championship. Is there a way to watch the game online? Are the games being recorded that I could then
Actually, I
study
have
them
an
afterwards?
expert on staff that is very good with Twitch, and we've got at least 5 DGT boards on loan from Texas Chess Association, maybe some others. So
Mhm.
these DGT boards, you can actually have stuff broadcast live, and we've got an expert on staff that can make it happen. So we're planning on doing that, and so I'll send out information to you so people can see that, at least the top 5 boards, what's going on.
That's
Okay.
wonderful. I'll look forward to that in October.
Yes,
And
sir.
to our audience, please like, share, subscribe, ring the bell on YouTube. We'd love to hear from you, Shaun, at veteransbreakfastclub.org. Jim, I want to thank you for your time and for joining the Scuttlebutt, and best of luck in the next championship. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Scuttlebutt. I want to thank D&D Metal Recycling and Auto Salvage for their generous support and sponsorship of this program. You can find their locations, get quotes, and ask about availability at D&Dautosalvage.com. That's D&Dautosalvage.com. We'll see you next week here on the Scuttlebutt.